What is going on, everyone? It's your guy, Cole Jackson, back with another episode of the WTFlock Postgame Show. We're going to be giving you instant analysis and a breakdown of the Ravens' thrilling, masterful, I just had my shirt off. It was crazy. 36-35 win over the Kansas City Chiefs. If you enjoyed the first episode of this series and you're looking forward to more post games, click the like button, hit subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Before we get into it, we want to thank the sponsors of the WTFlock Postgame Show. It's our guys and gals over at Lee's Pint and Shell, located right in the heart of Baltimore. Lee's is your go-to for game day. They're partying like bananas right now. They have some awesome specials on game day. We have 32-ounce Bud Light drafts, $15 Ultra buckets, $12 Modelo and Corona Ponies buckets, and $20 White Claw buckets. There's something for everybody. Go over there and party. And we also want to give a shout out to the winners of this weekend's Tiki Lee's Rockfish Tournament. K Sarah taking home the $125K on a 15.7-pound rockfish. I couldn't even carry it home. Followed closely by Loose Knot 34 and Triple M, good in second and third place respectfully. A great event overall, and congrats to the winners. And now over to my post-game show, who made me put my shirt back on. It's Adam Bonacorsi. What's going on, my man?
Yeah, okay. That's a celebratory drink. That is a celebratory drink tonight because it is a huge flocking win tonight, Cole. That was an absolutely incredible win. I don't know many people out there who were expecting what we just witnessed, but my God, that was phenomenal. Monkey is off their backs. At least one of the monkeys, right? One shoulder. That monkey's gone. This monkey's still kind of hanging in the playoffs. But
I tweeted before the game. It was what do the Ravens need to win? Not turn the ball over. We'll get to that in a second. Protect the quarterback and win in the trenches generally. They did have early turnovers, 2 of them, but they came out even in the turnover battle. We got an INT on Mahomes. They fumble. So, they didn't lose the turnover battle. Can't stress enough that takeaway by Odafe Owe was the game. And obviously Lamar Jackson playing like an MVP. But they protected Lamar. We're going to get more into depth about that. And they bullied in the trenches for the first time in a while against a line that we thought we'd struggle against. So,
absolutely.
I want to talk about a few things more generally. The officiating was porous. There was inconsistent in the trenches. You guys know I'm staring at the trenches when the games are playing. Guys holding game. It's part of the game. I don't usually really care if they're calling it. I just want it consistent. Calling that little ticky-tacky hold on Villanueva after Brandon Williams got mugged on one of Mahomes. I think might have been the touchdown. It doesn't matter. That's terrible. And then obviously, I've coached, I've played in an RPO scheme. You are taught to let go of that block so that you don't get an eligible down man. And that's exactly what Zeitler did. And they throw a flag. It's horrible. And you know what? They did throw a makeup call. That's fine. But we just saw it. If they don't get that turnover, maybe you force KC into kicking a field goal and we're going into overtime. That's a much different position than you're only up 1 trying to protect against a field goal. It was awful. Shame on those refs. It's one of those things where I don't think they get held accountable enough. What'd you think about the officiating? No,
so the glaring penalty to me, other than the Zeitler penalty, for being eligible downfield was on Justin Matabuke, Mads. So he's pressuring up the gut. He's got 2 guys ripping him down from behind. And they called him for a hold, which was an automatic first down instead of a second and long. And then that drive continued on. That was, I think, fourth quarter, maybe late third quarter. That drive continued on for a KC touchdown. And it's one of those things, again, in the trenches, right, where you're watching these guys just absolutely these officials absolutely miss calls, but more so just really calling it lightly in the trenches. And you're right. We did see the makeup call later on, a makeup call, but it seemed like it was just heavily against Baltimore early on, kind of leveled out a little bit more later in the game. I don't know. It was shaky at best. Cleve Lakeman's crew had a rough night. And luckily, and obviously for us, we're saying luckily because Baltimore comes out on top, but luckily the penalties didn't in the end affect the game the way that they very well could have.
100%. No, very well said. At the end of the day, you win. Who gives a crap? If that was a loss, we would have been talking about this segment with much more anger.
Right.
Moving on to the coaching, Harbaugh, balls of steel. The biggest cojones in Eastern United States. Someone just posted a clip. You guys go find it on Twitter. I just retweeted it. You can find it retweeted at Cole Jackson FB. Original tweet from at XYZ_. So credit to that person. They originally tweeted it. Harbaugh walks onto the field and goes, Lamar, you want to go for this on the 4th down? And then they go for it. That is a coach putting everything into his quarterback. All that trust. We saw it in 2019 in Seattle. He came out. Lamar said, I want to go for it. Harbaugh said yes. That's just like that connection between a head coach and a quarterback cannot be understated. Love to see it. There were some poor coaching moments. I think the 2 timeouts they had to take early in the 3rd quarter, mid-3rd quarter, it looked like, calling timeouts because they were swapping personnel. Guys have talked about this ad nauseum about substitutions, getting to the play or getting to the line of scrimmage too slow. All of that's wrapped into coaching. So it's still a bit of an issue. And on the offensive side, for the love of all things holy, stop calling rollouts in the red zone or at the goal line. Like, you have the best player in the league at playing in space and you're going to roll them into a short territory. That second down or the 2-point conversion, the second attempt was rollout, and Lamar just has no. If that first route isn't open, there's nothing there, and Lamar has no space.
They did the exact same play too. At least roll out to the right next time they tried the 2-point conversion again. So it was all too familiar. Yeah, I agree.
Stop doing it. Out of the playbook.
Yeah.
Get it out of there. And then looking at the defensive coaching, shout out Wink Martindale. People are out here calling for him to be fired after last week, which was bananas. Listen, there was some bad execution. Guys missed tackles. Guys missed assignments. They basically escorted Byron Pringle into the end zone. That's got to be fixed. Unacceptable. Not on the coaching. You got to execute the plays that are called. Here's what Wink did. He said, all right, we're going to rush 4. My guys are going to win some one-on-ones, and we're going to play some coverage and try and limit Mahomes. You don't stop Patrick Mahomes. You limit him. That was the best they could have done tonight. They got pressure when they had to, forced a mistake. Mahomes still threw for like a 80% clip, 75% clip. But that's the best they could do. You're in a shootout with the Kansas City Chiefs. That's how you're going to have to win that game. Wink did what he had to do. He got his plays from his guys when he needed them, and we got to win in the win column.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was interesting. I mean, we'll get into the offense and the defense later. But in terms of play calling, one point I'll make too. I was expecting a little more from Roman on offense of a mixed bag, right? He's saying like, we're going to ride the hot hand. I didn't believe it. I didn't feel comfortable with that. I thought, all right, they're bringing up Freeman and they're probably going to try to split this thing 3 ways pretty closely. And looking at the disbursement of carries, they split it 3 ways pretty closely, just with Lamar, Tyson Williams, and Murray, Freeman barely seeing it. So, but again, credit to the offensive side of the ball as well. Yeah. The way they handled themselves, they didn't stop what worked. They mixed in a great amount of throws, or they mixed in the proper amount of throws for this offense, but high probability plays. They didn't try to get too fancy. They didn't have Lamar in the pocket too long. It looks like they took some cues from last week's game and made some corrections. And of course you have to when you lose Stanley and you're playing three different positions, 3 different players in the line. So yeah, I was impressed with the changes in the coaching on that side, on the offensive side of the ball. And
I'm chomping at the bit to get into the O-line. So Adam, before we jump into the offensive breakdown, what are you drinking over there?
So a celebratory drink. I had already planned on drinking this tonight, obviously, because sponsors, right? But I spent a couple days up in Buffalo and, spending some time in Buffalo. Then you get Buffalo Trace in the back of your mind. So I poured a little bit tonight. A little bourbon's never a bad thing. And it's kind of reminded me, hey, guess what? We have an event coming up here at Lee's Pint and Shell. It's their whiskey event, September 28th, and it's going to be featuring Blanton's Eagle Rare 10-year and Buffalo Trace that I have right here with me. So you'll get both featured cocktails. You get 3 1-ounce pour flights each of the Blantons and the Buffalo Trace, and then you'll get some featured finger food, some giveaways going on, a whole event that they do up, and they do a great job. So you can get your tickets online. You go to leespintandshell.com. Check them out there. Go check them out on Instagram, Twitter, name a social network. They're out there. So you can go out and get yourself some tickets, and I hope to see you there and keep on keeping on.
And we'll be dropping all that information in the description, including a link directly to the page. Huge thank you to our sponsors. We love you guys over there. And like I said, I bet they are partying hard right now.
Oh, God.
Getting into the offense. I'm starting with the offensive line. I'm ready to rant. You're ready to listen to a rant. Let's go. Going into this game, we watched AV get his butt kicked. We watched Stanley have to leave. I'm terrified. I hear, rumors about how they're going to be rotating the left guard. Like, I'm nervous. I'm nervous as heck. And what those guys did, Alejandro Villanueva and Patrick McCarry, first of all, I'm not going any further without mentioning this. That RPO play where AV does the hand swat and then pushes him out of the back of the pocket, everyone's ragging on Villanueva for that. You are designed as the left tackle when that RPO slant is coming on the left side to get him out of the way. You will never see an offensive tackle do a hand swipe like that if he's not trying to just kick him out of the back of the pocket. Listen, were his feet in good spot? Probably not. Could it have been better? Yes. That wasn't an attempt at like a normal base block. Come on. Like that is, it's driving me crazy. Like, I'm not trying to rag on anyone, but like, if we're going to give a guy crap, let's at least be factual about it.
Yeah.
And on AV, guy played a heck of a game. I couldn't believe it. Like I broke it down in my video on him. His set point was completely off.
That was it.
You could see it. You could see it clear as day. He's beating his guy to his spot, and he has time. He's nimble on his feet. He's using his length. He's timing it right. When guys try and make a move, once he has them square, he's there and ready to react to it. It's a different rush assignment. Jones isn't going to beat you on the edge like Crosby. Clark has some juice, but not quite what Crosby has. Different rush matchup, but credit AV, came out, played a heck of a game, and huge credit to Patrick McCarry. I tweeted it like 3 times during the game. He is so technical. He's going to lose some reps. He doesn't have length, and that's fine, but he plays with perfect technique almost every rep. And when you play like that, you're going to win more than you lose. And so credit McCarry stepping in, offensive tackle was his natural position. He played a heck of a game. Going inside, Bozeman had a bad snap. We're watching you, buddy. Outside of that, Zeitler looked like 2019 Yonde out there. Like that block that he just sealed the game with the 4th down, that he may as well just hit straight on his back and he could have taken Lamar home. It was beautiful. KZ played a heck of a game, and credit to the guys rotating at left guard. Cleveland played well. Powers had some good reps. The boys up front got it done. They did the second and the third most important thing that I think you have to do to win a football game. Lamar was protected, and they won their one-on-ones in the run game and got the run game going to a tune of 6.1 yards per carry. Some of that's Lamar's feet, sure. Some of that's them using the veer option more, sure. But the O-line won one-on-ones that they did not win against the Raiders, and that was why the offense was successful.
Absolutely. How often did you see that pocket collapse tonight, honestly? Oh, I caught you in a drink. Go ahead. How often did you see that pocket collapse?
Three or 4 times on probably 30. I think he had 26 passing attempts, but a couple scrambles. So 3 or 4 times on 30. That was 54%
almost 50% last week.
54%.
Yeah, exactly.
So and compare that to Mahomes facing 52.5% in the Super Bowl. And everyone knows what a crap show that was. Lamar was pressured more. This game he was pressured maybe 8%, 10%.
Right.
Completely different game. And you see a completely different Lamar Jackson.
Right. I mean, 251 yards on the ground, and 3 of their touchdowns came on the ground tonight. And that effort, again, and that's a continuation. But so one of the points that you and I kind of discussed briefly, and I've discussed with some people throughout the Twitterverse, was, kind of like what's a better scenario for the Ravens right now, a 50% Ronnie Stanley or Al switching back to left tackle. And, to your point about your film room last week on Villanueva, and, I'm not the offensive line guy, right? That's not my bag, but I'll go watch film study and film room. I'm sorry. I'll watch your film room and learn some stuff. Yeah, I know, right? Let me just go ahead and back at it. So I watch your film room, learn some stuff. And I think you made the comparison there about trying to write left-handed versus right-handed your whole life kind of thing. And that's really what it was. It was like, all right, he's learning to write left-handed after he's been a righty his whole life, but he can snap back into that righty and do his thing. And obviously switching sides here, but going back to the left, it's his natural state. That's where he's used to playing. And it's funny because we had, as soon as the Ravens signed Villanueva, the Steelers fans come out of the woodworks and talk about how he's dead and he's awful. And, in my travels up through the Pittsburgh territory as well, listening to local talk, there was a lot of that too. It's like, I don't know why they signed him. He's washed. He played great. And if Stanley's out for a few more weeks, a few months, whatever it may be, I mean, it's nice to see him on the sidelines. If he's out for any period of time, I feel not great, but I feel good knowing that Villanueva can fill that void right there. So that was very interesting. And so the ground game, I kind of touched on this before about the way they split the carries. Lamar had 16. Call a handful of those scrambles and say he still had 11, 10, say 10, right? 10 that weren't these pocket breaks down takeoff situations. And then Tyson Williams, 13, Latavius Murray, 9. And then Freeman had 2. One was a big, 31-yard clip and then a negative 2-yard run. And even Ricard got in there. So it was a very – I like the balance of it. I really do. Freeman's going to take some time to get acclimated, and that's fine. And who knows if he's going to get acclimated and what the plan is for him moving forward. I'm very comfortable with this rushing attack with what they have right now. Are you feeling the same way too?
It's all about, and I was shocked we saw so much of it, and I was shocked at how clean it was. It's all about getting back to that veer option and those
big
option
difference.
concepts.
Big
and
difference.
You can see it helps the O-line. When people talk about being a O-line friendly offense, I always push people. What does that mean? That is a concrete example of how this can be O-line friendly. So maybe that helped the tackles, sure. But, guys like Patrick Mahomes help their offensive tackles by that wizardry. So I'm not going to, ding them and say, they don't need to still execute their assignments. I mean, a straight up vertical set pass block is a vertical set pass block. Doesn't matter who you're blocking for. And it's the same thing in the run game. You still have to get out in space. You got to make your blocks. A couple of things Macari did well was sealing edge blocks, and that's just positioning technique. It's not about driving the guy. It's about getting in his way and doing a functional block. So I think the return of those concepts made a huge difference. I think it was clear as day. I think Tyson Williams runs them really well. He's really explosive off that dive. Credit Latavius Murray looked a lot more explosive. And Freeman. I mean, if Freeman wants to come in and give me a couple snaps and give me a 31-yard gain, that's all I need from him in this role. So what I need is consistent execution from Tyson Williams. Obviously the fumble was terrifying. Thank God Duvernay got in there. It is what it is. We need to see better ball security. That's 2 fumbles in back-to-back games. One in the first game fumbled out of bounds. The second fumbled into his own teammate's hands for a touchdown. That's fine, but let's clean that up moving forward. I think Tyson Williams can be kind of my J.K. Dobbins role that I envision this year. And then Latavius Murray is now in the Edwards role. And what I mean by that is both are going to play. I think I see Williams. I think he looked pretty good out in the past game too. He had a couple of bigger gains. Going back through the film last week, his pass protection was not nearly as bad as people made it sound. I think that was pretty clear in this game. So I trust him. I trust him to kind of be my RB1A, and then Murray's kind of, or 2A if you want to call him that, and Murray's my 2B. And I feel good about that mixture. Similar skill sets, you got Lightning and J.K. Dobbins and Tyson Williams. You got Thunder and Gus Edwards and Latavius Murray. Are they the same players? No. We know that we're dealing with lower skill level. It is what it is, but look how productive they can be. So it looked good.
Well, so to your point about, I can trust Williams out there, I think it's worth noting that Harbaugh clearly and Roman clearly trusted Williams because you had that fumble on that first touchdown drive. And again, luckily Duvernay was there, but they continued to run him and play him all game. And I think that's going to be very, very well documented when we see the snap counts tomorrow too. But just in the touches alone, coming up with 2 catches and 16 yards, I think it was, and 9 and a 7 in this game, but it was only on 2 targets. He caught everything thrown his way, which is what you ask of him. But I do find it interesting. A big deal was made out of the loss of J.K. Dobbins and then Justice Hill, not as much Gus Edwards when we're talking about being a receiving threat out of the backfield. Williams' 2 catches were the only 2 catches by a running back, or only 2 targets to a running back at all in this game. And it looked like Lamar was really focused on that same core of guys throughout the entire game, which not necessarily a bad thing, right?
No, and Marquise Brown looks like a wide receiver 1. He's not going to have the size. He's not going to, have the jump balls, but and guys talked about this last year, guys that break down the film and get right into it. Marquise Brown was getting open last year, and they weren't executing to convert that separation. This year, that's all we've seen through 2 games. He's getting open. He has space. And he did it well last year. So, he can be like, getting Rashad Bateman back is going to be so huge. Credit Sammy Watkins. He's making plays. Bateman's just going to be, he can come in and make some of those big plays like we just saw from Odafe Oweh. So I think getting him back is going to be a huge boost. But, credit Brown, Watkins, Andrews, and credit Josh Oliver for taking advantage of his target. He got 1 target last week, and it was, that off ball in the end zone. He got out in space. He made a guy miss, and, he got 9 yards, and it came at a crucial moment. So credit Oliver.
Oh, he was pushing for pay dirt too. You could see it in his eyes. Yeah. He was trying to turn those legs up a little bit more. I think he had Sorensen on him too. So it would have been a beautiful way to catch a soul ball on the season so far. But they all did a great job. And Watkins had that slip to start the game that turned into the pick 6. And he turns around. If he can plant that foot, it's right there in his chest. But Lamar throws to a spot, and just so happens that spot is now occupied by Tyrann Mathieu, and that was it, right? That was the end of that. And then what Watkins did, look, that final drive, and Lamar hits Watkins in the chest, and he rolls down for that 4th and 1 to get you within inches that you can push that pile to end the game. So Watkins made the catches he needed to. I think it was 4 on 7 targets. And Hollywood, he had 6 catches on 10 targets, but 2 of them were, a pick, and then he had another target on the 2-point conversion, I guess. But it just throwing into double and triple coverage to try to force a ball into him. And those are some of the places where you look at Lamar and say, all right, we got to make smarter decisions. The one, I believe Murray was in the flat out there, pretty wide open with room to run too, and he just disregarded him. So sometimes he gets a little hooked on that run read right there, but that's okay, right? Look, at the end of the day, I like seeing them take those kind of chances. I like seeing Lamar take those kind of chances and try to fastball one in there. Real quick, we got to talk about that jump pass. How do we not talk about the jump pass?
It was just like, I called it. It looked like he was just doing like a hook shot. Like, what was he doing? And then he did it almost again later. Like, I better wake up in the morning and see that all over SportsCenter, because it was just a thing of beauty. Like, this is the thing. Lamar started the game terrible. He missed Hollywood. The pick 6 happens. He comes out, settles in a little bit, throws another pick. It's like, all right, it's going to be one of those games. He settles in, this is the growth of Lamar Jackson. It's his ability to overcome adversity, the mental side of the game. And that's where we're going to see him grow so much. Just comes with getting older. The kid's 24 years old. I could basically be his dad. It's just one of those things. It's going to come with growth, and we're seeing it. And it's a beautiful sight, because he just becomes a better player. He got into a situation where he was in a shootout. And, I think another guy that kind of needs some credit is Greg Roman, because he stuck to his identity and didn't stray from what was working. It was a ground attack with efficient passing. Everyone was upset with him early, and that's fine. But he did what we all said we all complained about, that we're playing the Chiefs and he craps his pants and, he's going to go throw. He answered the critics. He settled in, and we beat the Kansas City Chiefs in a shootout. Absolutely.
And one more guy I want to give just a little bit of credit to. Ravens marching down the field and trying to burn up as much time as possible in that 2-minute drill. Mark Andrews with a hurdle to get out of bounds instead of letting the clock roll, man. Mark Andrews, that was a beautifully placed, timed hurdle to touch the sideline there, get out of bounds, and stop the clock. Man,
he looked like he just saw the ice cream shop or truck come by, and he had to hop the balcony to get out there. Absolute thing of beauty. And before we get into the defense, Adam, what can you tell me about what's going on at Lee's this week in September? This is a month-long event.
Right, it is. So we've talked about, Lee's Pint and Shell and some of their events, shucking in the streets, and the whiskey event they have coming up. We talked about Tiki Lee's and their Rockfish tournament they had this past weekend. But we haven't yet talked about the third location, which is Lee's Landing up in Port Deposit up here in Maryland, just a little further north than I am. Next weekend up at Lee's Landing, they're going to go ahead and do a day for the dogs. So it's going to be Saturday, September 25th from 12 to 4, and it's going to be the Bailout Adoptable Dogs event that they're going to have up there. So they partnered with Keep Brewing, local favorite of mine, to create a beer that'll help do just that with these dogs, and it's called the Lee's Great Doggy Bailout. So it's 25 cents out of each can that you purchase up there. It's going to be donated to local animal shelters, like Senior Dog Sanctuary down here in Maryland, Cole. So we have great dog loving vendors out there like Puppy Love and Barron's Canine Market, dog treats out here by Dear Sweet Adeline. We're going to say Adeline on this one, and plenty more. So you can come down, get some drinks, do a little shopping for your dog, look for some pups to adopt. I've got a dog. He's adopted puppy. We got it. I say puppy now. He's 4 years old, but we got him from an adoption event. Greatest decision we've made in this house. Family favorite. Name's Fritz. Everybody calls him Bear around here because he just looks like a giant teddy bear. But I'll definitely be going up to Lee's Landing this weekend for their doggy bailout event, grabbing some treats for the dog and myself. And to be clear, the dog treats are for the dog. The Lee's bailout drink that they're doing with Key Brewing is my treat. I don't want you to think it's the other way around. So
love it.
It'll be a great event though this week. I'm very much looking forward to that one.
And we are very much a pro rescue post-game show. I got my dog when it was funny. I get my dog from a rescue, get him home, and he was I think he was only 8 months, so he wasn't too old, but it wasn't really like a puppy situation. Yeah. And I get his paperwork sent to me. I look at the date. His birthday was the exact same day as my birthday, and I was like, this was meant to be. So I'll have to tweet a picture tomorrow when he turned 1 that year in October. Him and I both party hats on. He's a little puggle. He's actually a little crap, but he's, you love him. So, definitely consider adoption over going for a puppy. You can save a dog's life. And I can see it in Preston all the time. He just has so much love for us because I think he knows, and, we love him. So, very pro that. And back into football, when we get into the defense, I'm going to get the negative out of the way because I don't want to drone on the negative. We're vibing here. It's a good time. But I did think a guy that struggled tonight was Patrick Queen. He just the difference between 2020 and 2021 Patrick Queen is 2021, he is far more proficient at getting in a position to make the play. He's reading his gaps better. He's playing faster. He looks significantly better. The missing step, the missing ingredient, you got to put the last ingredient in the drink before you chug it. He needs to finish. And, it's missed tackles. It's low functional strength. It's him coming through the gap too high. It's those little things that are going to not allow him to finish plays. That's going to be the difference between being a stat chasing, good, not great linebacker and being a great linebacker. Because I see it, it's clear as day. He's reading plays better. He's getting into gaps. There was a run tonight. He beats his man. He just didn't get low enough to finish and make the tackle. A lot of people are looking at his size. That's fine. There's a lot of light guys. Look at Darius Leonard. He's like 220 pounds. So it's about consistent technique, applying that, making the tackle. Maybe you're not laying the wood like a Malik Harrison, but he's got to get in there and finish. So that was a bit of a complaint from mine. Anyone else you want to point out for on the more negative side?
Earlier in the game, I would have pointed out Tavon Young and Brandon Stevens were playing a bit behind. Even Marlowe was playing a bit behind. And I found it interesting because I guess Calais Campbell made a comment that kind of alluded to the Ravens going to be chipping a lot and hitting Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce at the line, not letting them get free releases. But I'm watching this game and I'm watching, five wide on Kansas City, and everybody's got about a 5-yard cushion before the DB's there. And, they're still chipping Kelce inside a bit, but it didn't seem like they were giving much in terms of trying to jam these guys at the line. Yeah. So I'm watching the corners play off, and there was a lot of catch and chase going on out there, and that was bothersome early on. It seemed like it tightened up a good bit in the second half. Averett was another one who's playing a bit of, two-step behind the guy after the ball's in his hands, trying to chase him down. A lot leaned into the safeties there. Losing a starting safety, not a great thing in this game, right? Big deal. So concussion, right? Was that what we were dealing with here?
Yeah, he ended up. No, yeah. Okay, it was a concussion.
All right. So, that was an early gripe, but that even seemed, like I said, to tighten up there in the second half. So the things that was kind of irksome, in the first half, kind of felt a little bit better about. Honestly, the defense in general, by about the fourth quarter, I felt a bit better there. Was it 4 touchdowns on 5 drives or something like that prior to? Yeah. So it was brutal. It was a brutal stretch there for them. They were all winded. So real quick note, I got a lot of crap for saying they're winded, right? It's 30 seconds. They're driving right down the field. How should they be winded? Because you're doing wind sprints down the field, right? It's one thing to say longevity and being able to withstand a 5-7 minute drive, whatever it may be. It's another thing to be like Mahomes is marching so damn quick on these guys that the defense is just wind sprinting all over the field. So they're hands on the knees. And then, by the time, that Kelsey play, right? Kelsey gets the ball off Mahomes' back shoulder, hits him in the chest, 2 Ravens defenders bang into each other, and then nobody can catch him. And Kelsey doesn't even look like he's running hard. He looks like it was just like a heavy jog, right? It was jogging at best, and nobody could seem to catch him. And the caravan got in place because nobody was even close. And that's kind of what I meant by winded in this game. It's like they just – maybe it was deflated, right? But I don't think so. The way the game ended, they seemed to pick it up a step. Everybody just seemed like they were out of sorts, I guess, in the secondary a bit there.
Yeah, and it's kind of similar to how Lamar settled in. The secondary seemed to settle in, and the coverage, and guys were making plays. Like that play from AA on Tyreek was a thing of beauty. Finally got his head around, and he got a PBU, and it just seemed like guys kind of settled in, got some confidence. That Byron Pringle touchdown was horrible.
Oh, it was another one. Yep.
They just kind of like no one wanted to make a play on him. So I mean, it is what it is. They settled in. I think that's kind of the theme of the game. As the game went on, the difference between the last 2 years and 2021 is that the Baltimore Ravens settled into this game and took control and played their game versus trying to play KC's game, panicking. I shouldn't say they didn't make mental mistakes because they absolutely did. But that it's football. It's 2 high octane offenses playing against each other, and the results were the Ravens had almost 500 yards and the Chiefs had 420. So, that's almost 1,000 yards of football in there. So, the guy that we need to talk about, because I couldn't get over his game, is Odafe Oweh. Oh my God. It's not even like, I think he only had like 1 QB hit and a tackle for a loss. He was straight up owning guys with inside pass rush moves. No one's tweeting about it, but last week's everyone's like, well, he needs to add something to do with speed rush. Well, he went out, got Orlando Brown to set wide and start to flip his hip, and he just ripped back under inside. It was a thing of beauty. Then 2 plays later, he's on the other tackle, on their right tackle, same thing, beats him inside with an inside counter rush. He played phenomenal football tonight, and guys, his thing coming out of Penn State was that he was an athletic freak, but wasn't making plays on the ball. Go out and get a fumble and recover it yourself to win your team the game. That's what you get done.
After a sack last week in a game where it was hard to get pressure at all.
Exactly. Like, you can't be more happy. And this isn't a stat chasing thing. Like, everyone said that with Patrick Queen last year when in his defensive rookie of the year chase. It was like, wow, he's just counting stats. That's fine. Always having a huge impact on the game and doing what the Ravens need from him. So I thought he played well. I thought Justin Houston played well. I thought the interior D-line didn't play too great. I didn't like that drive where I think it was after they scored and then the Ravens started playing a little bit more back in coverage. So Andy Reid was like, we'll just run it on you. And they just ran it down the field. I need those guys winning some of those one-on-ones. So I thought that could have tightened up. Brandon Williams did leave the game with a neck strain. Yeah. So that's not good. Jelly played all right. You don't want Jelly starting. So that's kind of where this whole one tech depth has been an issue. Broderick Washington wasn't active for this game, so that was a bit of an issue. But, like I said, I think the key was they settled in. They played Baltimore Raven football. If they start making some of those tackles and someone in our group chat said it best. It's that, making tackles it's a culture thing. It's a mentality. It's, these guys have been playing football for 20 years. Like, you're not going to suddenly teach them their technique, but it is funny because you go to a youth football practice, you show up, they're doing 2 things at the start of every practice from the time you're 6 until you're in the NFL. They split into 2 groups, and half the group does blocking and half the group does tackling. Are the 2 most core competencies in the game of football. And you see it shine at the NFL level, and it's just crazy to me. So I do think it's a cultural thing. I think it seemed a little weird that Sean Elliott, their guy out there laying wood, comes out of the game and then tackles start getting missed. So, that's something I want to see more out of. I want to see more aggressiveness. I want to see Humphrey setting the tone, Elliott setting the tone, Harrison, Campbell. All those guys got to come out and expect their guys to lay the wood when someone touches the ball.
Yeah, I don't disagree with any of that. And I'm probably off here, but I feel like there's like a game, right? A game a season where we walk away and say, oh my God, they forgot to tackle.
Absolutely.
But it's also rare to come away with a win in one of those kind of games. And that just kind of, it's a tip of the cap to this offense here and what they were able to do. And again, like you had said with Roman earlier, not to jump back to offense, but staying true to the course of the game. Knowing that they can't deviate from their game plan in this, and they were never fully out of it. What was the biggest lead in this game? 11? 14?
14.
Was it 14?
Nothing. No, it was 14-7. You're right. You're right.
Yeah. So they were never more than, a touchdown, a 2-point, and a field goal away from tying it up. And Roman didn't, throw away the game plan and start just throw. That's
what I'm saying.
Yep.
And
it was great execution.
He's done it in the past. And I just think, like, not to jump back to the coaching, but it didn't happen. And I think it shows, a strength. And I think we saw it from Wink too. Wink stuck to his game plan. He gave them short yardage that basically if you made your tackles, you were going to stop them. And if you didn't make your tackles, they were going to make longer runs. Make those tackles, and this game is a lot different, even though they're having a high completion percentage. But go back to a game that happened last week on Thursday, Cowboys against the Buccaneers. The Cowboys were throwing like 4-yard passes constantly, and the Bucs were just staying in front of them, making their tackle and kind of wearing them down. Another shootout style game, but a similar concept. It's about, keeping them in front of you, but making those tackles and finishing plays.
Yeah. Well, and so we're going to talk about sticking to your game plan, Wink leaning back and saying, you know what, I'm just not going to blitz in this game. And I think, at halftime they pointed out it was maybe 4-point-something% of the dropbacks he had blitzed. And I don't think it really changed much in the second half. It didn't seem like there was really much more to take away from that. But that's it, right? If Casey's looking and saying aggressive game plan, we're used to the same thing over and over and over again with him. All the tape we're watching on this Ravens defense is this aggressive pass rush. They're blitzing from all over the place. And then Wink steps out there and says, nah, we're good. We're just not going to blitz because we know what happens when we blitz you, and it's detrimental to our game. And he stuck with it, right? Even when they're breaking off these big plays. I think I tweeted it out of frustration because that's what you do during a game is I'm just expecting Wink to just start unloading at this point in time because they can't seem to get home to Mahomes. And when they're laying back, they're still giving up these big chunk plays. So what the hell? Why not give it a shot? But he stuck to it. And the defense, got the big stops they needed at the end. They had the interception and then that fumble by Odafe away. And the recovery there was perfect. So what a way to end the night. What a way to end Sunday of football.
Absolutely. And we're looking ahead because that's going to wrap up kind of our breakdown, our analysis. Looking ahead, we have, I think you'd be lying to yourself if you didn't expect this team to be 1-1 going into week 3. Obviously, you saw the complete flip. You saw probably beating Vegas, and then you saw losing to the Chiefs. That's fine. You're not going to – no one predicts a 17-0 season with confidence. And this is kind of this is where I thought this team could kind of get into a run. It's like you go in, you beat Vegas on the road, you come home, you lose to KC in a hard fought matchup. I'm just, again, being real with you. And then you go on and you have Detroit, Denver, Indy, Chargers, Bengals, and then a bye week. And I'm like, that's your get right games. You kind of rack up some wins, you get your confidence going. Now it's the flip script. Everyone's down in the dirt. It's all week. The sky's falling. 0-2. 5 teams have started 0-2 and made the playoffs in the last 30 years, whatever the stat is. Now we're 1-1. Now we're going into, we're walking with swagger. We have an offensive identity. We saw it. Let's go into Detroit. Let's pump them. Now let's go into Denver. Let's pump them. And that's where this team needs to get on a roll and start racking up some wins. Right. There's no easy game. The Bengals will give us a tough out. They got some offensive weaponry. The Colts are going to give us a tough game. The Chargers are going to give us a tough game. It is what it is. But these next 2 games, and credit Denver, and even Detroit. They play tomorrow night, but they looked darn good on offense last week. So that's what I mean. These are no throwaway games. No. But I think the Ravens can win these games, and I think they need to go out there and execute to kind of maintain that identity.
Well, and I think the other thing that's being wildly ignored right now, because everybody had like they said, the sky's falling 0-2 ending to this thing. I think the other thing that's being less discussed is everybody who's going to be coming back in due time here. And it may not be all at once, and it may be a guy next week. Right? Maybe they get back Derek Wolfe next week. Maybe they get back Bateman the week after that. Maybe they're getting back, some of these other guys that are on the short term, Boyle, right? All these little key pieces and parts of this team that we were panicking about when the season started. Now suddenly it's like, all right, we're going to get these guys back into the fold. Suddenly this team that was capable of pulling this win in this week, down so many bodies, is starting to reload, retool, get built back up to where they should have been. And you're putting everybody back in there. Tyree Phillips coming back hopefully within a month. Guys like that, it'd be great to get these guys back in here. Jimmy Smith, Westry for depth in the secondary. There's so many guys that we could be getting back in the next, I would say, 2 to 4 or 5 weeks as we load up and get prepared for that long stretch in the second half of the season. So yeah. I'm hyped.
Well said, and it's positive vibes here. We're loving it. That's all we have for you today, folks. If you enjoyed today's post game, hit the like button, subscribe so you find your way back for more Ravens content. Once again, huge thank you to Lee's Pint and Shell for sponsoring the show. We love you guys. That's all we have at Two Guys Watching Football. Be good to yourselves. Be good to each other.